The Second Congo War, also known as the Great African War, took place between 1998 and 2003 and was one of the deadliest conflicts in Africa's history. Originating from political instability within the Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC), it drew in numerous African countries and non-state actors, ultimately spreading across the entire region. The war was ignited by a rebellion against then-President Laurent Desire Kabila's regime after he came to power in 1997 by overthrowing the long-standing Mobutu Sese Seko government. As a result, a wide range of African nations, including Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi, became involved, supporting various rebel groups for their own political and military agendas. The intensity of the war was staggering, with civilians bearing the brunt of the violence. Mass atrocities such as sexual violence, abductions, and massacres were committed by armed factions on all sides. Women and children were particularly vulnerable, subjected to systematic sexual violence, which became a weapon of war. Thousands of women were raped, and many children were either abducted or forced into armed militias, experiencing horrific psychological and physical trauma. These violations were not only war crimes, but also part of a larger strategy to terrorize and destabilize the population, deeply affecting the social fabric of the country. Another major issue during the war was the looting of Congo's vast natural resources, including gold, diamonds, copper, and cobalt. Armed groups and foreign actors exploited these resources to fund the war, further complicating the conflict and creating a cycle of exploitation and violence. The illegal trade of these resources led to a phenomenon of conflict minerals being smuggled across borders and into global markets, benefiting warlords and corrupt actors rather than the people of Congo. Despite efforts by the United Nations to intervene, the conflict raged on for years. The UN sent peacekeeping forces to Congo, known as MONUC, to help stabilize the situation and prevent further human rights violations. However, the vastness of the country, the complex nature of the warring parties, and the failure to enforce international laws meant that the peacekeeping force could not stop the violence on the ground. Many local militias continued to operate with impunity, contributing to an unstable situation that still affects the country today. In 2003, after years of intense fighting, a peace agreement was brokered, leading to a formal ceasefire and the beginning of a power-sharing government. However, the agreement did not bring an end to the violence. Rebel groups, militias, and armed factions continued to destabilize regions of the country, particularly in the east, where natural resources continue to fuel conflicts. Though the war officially ended, Congo's problems persist, with the aftermath of the war still evident in the country's fragile political structure and ongoing humanitarian crisis. The Second Congo War left a profound impact on the DRC, with millions dead and millions more displaced. The conflict highlighted the destructive power of resource-driven wars, the horrific use of sexual violence as a weapon of war, and the devastating impact of global exploitation on local populations. Even today, the people of Congo continue to live with the consequences of the war, and the country remains in the shadow of its past, struggling with the legacy of violence, instability, and human suffering.